Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days. Here's an update from Olympia, where Washington lawmakers are in session.
Well, Senate Bill 5801 is now currently waiting to be reviewed by the House. And for a little bit of context, Tax Foundation reports that Washington State is ranked 4th for the highest state gas tax. And if this bill were to become law, that means that we would be ranked 2nd behind California at nearly 68 cents. Drivers may not like it if the gas tax goes up.
You never want gas to be more expensive than it is.
A proposed 6-cent state gas tax increase is closer to becoming the new norm. SB 5801 also would increase car registration fees by $50 for electric cars and $25 for hybrids. That adds to more than $10 billion in revenue for state transportation over 6 years. This comes at an attempt by lawmakers to create more funding for state transportation. That includes ongoing state highway construction projects such as the North Spokane Corridor.
The Spokane community's been waiting decades for this project to get done. We got to finish it.
Chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, Washington State Senator Marco Lias, says it's necessary to help cover the cost of finishing the last few stages of the NSC. He also says it's necessary to help cover the cost of bridges and roads across the state needing repairs. If it doesn't pass, he says the project could see a delay on its last stages for at least 6 years.
Spokane residents are going to be paying in more traffic, more congestion, time spent away from their family and their home, commuting back and forth.
For Spokane drivers Logan Webenhurst and Jerry Archuleta, they aren't surprised by the increased tax and say it's worth it for the project at home and others across the state.
You're going to get gas regardless. So it's just one of those things you have to build into your monthly budget.
I don't think the politics here in Washington have ever provided enough money to finish that highway. And that's the problem.
That support Senator Lias hopes to see from the House now that the bill passed the Senate.
I'm confident if we work hard, continue to do this in a bipartisan way, we'll get to the finish line.
Now at tonight's Spokane City Council meeting, Councilmember Michael Cathcart will be pushing to send a letter to the state legislature in support for full funding of the North Spokane Corridor. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Idaho Governor Brad Little signed House Bill 380. It strengthens punishments for convicted pedophiles. Members of the House and Senate say it was time for Idaho to catch up to other states and create stricter punishments for pedophiles.
This legislation ensures that those who commit the most severe offenses against children face significant consequences, sending a clear message that Idaho will not tolerate sexual abuse of our children.
Starting July 1st, the death penalty is on the table for anyone who sexually abuses a child under 12.
This legislation establishes a strong deterrent.
Under House Bill 380, if a defendant meets 3 of 17 criteria, they could be charged with the death penalty.
What we're doing here is we're trying to get the worst of the worst.
Some of those factors include 3 or more incidents of lewd contact with a minor, using force, or transmitting a sexually transmitted disease to a minor.
I don't think there's any excuse to be messing around with kids under 12 years of age. There's none. And I think that this sends a message that if you do it in Idaho, you're going to be in big trouble.
House Bill 380 will align Idaho's laws with other states in the country.
Idaho currently has some of the most lenient statutes for child molestation and child rape in the nation.
We're going to have to give notice of what the aggravated offenses are.
The bill defines what exactly is considered, quote, lewd. House lawmakers say clearly outlining unacceptable behavior could help children feel more comfortable coming forward. Governor Brad Little wrote in a statement, quote, just like capital murder destroys lives, aggravated sexual abuse of a young child devastates victims and families for generations. Attorney General Raul Labrador also wrote to KTVB in a statement, quote, Idaho's children and future generations deserve that measure of protection.
Lawmakers presented this bill last year and it didn't pass, so after adjusting the wording and the language of the bill to make it more clear, it passed this year almost unanimously. It'll go into effect July 1st. Reporting in Boise, Abby Wilt.
Working on the weekend, Governor Brad Little vetoed the Idaho Medical Freedom Act, legislation that looked to prohibit mandated medical interventions across Idaho, preventing businesses, schools, and the government from requiring things like vaccines, masks, or other medical treatments as conditions to participate.
It's that time of year we start doing the back and forth and try to find paths forward to get us out of this building.
House Speaker Mike Moyle is at the helm of navigating solutions. The fix on the Medical Freedom Act, a very popular bill in the House, comes in the form of new legislation instead of a veto attempt.
It just fixes the concerns that the governor had.
Moyle is a sponsor on the newly printed House Bill 472, a tailored fix in response to Governor Little's concern that the original bill removed parents' freedom to ensure their children stay healthy at school because he believed it jeopardized the ability of schools to send some sick students home, students with highly contagious conditions. In the proposal, schools wouldn't have been able to enforce vaccine or treatment requirements for anything, teachers or students. The latest version specifically changes that.
Well, I think everybody wants local control, and I don't think the original bill said they couldn't send them home. It just said they couldn't make them get a specific treatment for whatever was wrong. So the local control was there before to send them home, but it just took away the locals to tell them they had to use this product or that for whatever the problem was.
With the fix written, supporters are optimistic it'll soon clear the House and Senate again. But it's wait and see. Many lawmakers won't look to adjourn for the year until the idea clears the governor's desk.
A temperature on wrapping up, because you hear from the members as they're coming out, some of them are like,
well, they all want to go home. You saw before you came in my office, I was out there with a group of legislators. We're going through some of the things that need to happen and what we need to do, and it was interesting listening to some of their comments. And I think they understand that some of this stuff has to pass and some of it doesn't. And it's finding that balance and getting the right ones passed and through that get us out of here.
There are still a load of budgets to take on, and Moyle is no stranger to late session politics. A session lawmakers seem ready to finish ASAP.
There's a balance, and it takes time to, politics, it doesn't happen overnight. I wish it did. It's like on the farm, man. You got to probably go fix it. But in politics, there's 105 and a governor, and you just got to, it takes time to move the boat.
In Seattle and Lower Queen Anne is where the rent went up.
Quickly and unapologetically.
Chris Villalpando says for him it was a 50% increase to stay in his apartment.
Was almost homeless for a very short second there because I had to really dig deep to figure out how I was going to do it.
The financial setback prompted him to speak up.
But what I don't understand is how these predatory companies can continue to operate freely.
Renters like Chris are the focus of a new lawsuit that claims landlords are colluding with RealPage, a Texas-based software company, to inflate rents.
It's price fixing, it's illegal, and it hurts Washingtonians.
Attorney General Nick Brown says landlords shared non-public, competitively sensitive data with RealPage, and the software company combined and analyzed the information using an algorithm that recommends what to charge for rent.
Landlords that participated with RealPage were not letting the market forces naturally determine the rents, but deciding together to set rates.
In a statement, RealPage calls the lawsuit's claims devoid of merit, saying, quote, RealPage's revenue management software is purposely designed and built to be legally compliant and has always used data legally and responsibly. But the Attorney General is launching a legal fight.
But I hope that it helps put landlords in Washington on notice that they have to treat renters fairly, that they have to follow Washington state law, that they cannot illegally collude.
He's seeking restitution for renters.
The outcome I'm hoping for is that we just put a stop to it.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It has been a busy week all across the inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
This is the terrifying moment Tiffany Turner's life changed forever.
Then I still get the headaches.
Cell phone video from 2021 captures Marte Ellis attacking her in downtown Spokane until she lost consciousness. She has no memory of the attack, but when she spoke with us a year later, she considered her recovery a miracle.
The doctor did tell me the part of my brain that was injured the most, that took the most impact, was my memory.
The case against Ellis was dismissed because he was found not competent to stand trial. A year later, he killed someone while at Eastern Hospital. Still, no trial. Then, in October last year, a doctor determined Ellis was competent, which is what brought him back to the courtroom to answer for the crimes he committed. Ellis faced a judge to be sentenced for first-degree assault and first-degree murder.
I'm a survivor of a violent, life-altering attack.
A victim's advocate read Tiffany's statement in court.
Your Honor, I'm still fighting, but I'm asking for justice. I am asking for the system to recognize that this didn't just affect me. It affected my children, my job, my finances, my health, and my identity. I will never be the same person again, but I deserve the chance to reclaim what I can.
The judge sentenced Ellis to more than 10 years in prison for attacking Tiffany. He also pleaded guilty to the Eastern State Hospital murder. The judge sentenced him to 18 years for that crime. The sentences will run concurrently, meaning he will serve a total of 18 years behind bars.
It's been just one day since former Seattle Seahawks star Richard Sherman's family was robbed at gunpoint. His wife telling us over the phone that it was a traumatic experience. Now the couple taking to social media seeking justice, posting surveillance video from that scary night. Surveillance video shows the shocking moments 3 hooded people leave after an armed home robbery, jumping through the window of Seattle Seahawks former cornerback Richard Sherman.
Yes, I know who he is, of course.
A linchpin in the Seahawks defense for 7 seasons, Sherman helped the team secure a Super Bowl win in 2014.
Yeah, it looks like everybody here knows like Richard Sherman, you know?
Just after midnight on March 30, Sherman's 37th birthday, several people broke into his gated Maple Valley home. Sherman's wife, Ashley Moss, says 7 people were inside, herself, her cousin, and 5 children. Her cousin's kids, ages 9 and 11, were held at gunpoint.
It's a small town, yeah, I grew up here. That's brutal.
Sherman posting these photos of the suspects on X, writing in part, "It isn't what anyone wants for a birthday gift. Scary situation that my wife handled masterfully and kept my kids safe." And on Instagram, the future Hall of Famer's wife said, quote, "Waking up to intruders outside your bedroom with a gun is something no one should have experienced." Adding, quote, "They tried the wrong people. We will find you." According to Moss, everyone in the family is physically okay. And as of Monday, King County Sheriff says no arrests have been made. We asked the King County Sheriff's Office if perhaps these suspects are tied to any other crimes in the area, and they say at this point they cannot say with certainty. In Maple Valley, I'm Christian Balderas, King 5 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
Emerson Garfield's newest neighbor is hoping to make a difference in the community.
It will be life-saving for the women out there.
Knox Presbyterian Church's gymnasium will be a women's shelter operated by Jules Helping Hands.
We're about to open our next Scattered Site Center.
It's the nonprofit's latest project, one that Director of Operations Cheryl Brown is grateful to be a part of.
We are looking forward to being able to serve the women in the community because there's a lack of women's beds in the shelter system.
With Hope House closing in June, that's a loss of about 80 beds for women in Spokane. Jules hopes its new shelter will meet some of that need with 10 beds at first and eventually a total of 30 by mid-April.
So we have a peer navigation team that comes in and we do a quick assessment about the client's needs and then we get them set up with case management that will come in and intensely provide them services.
The Knox Women's Shelter marks the 4th scattered site shelter operated by Jules Helping Hands. It's an approach the city adopted under Mayor Lisa Brown's administration. Jules says it's already seen some success at its established locations.
There's so many good outcomes. Almost weekly, I hear about a client getting housed or a client returning home to their family.
The Knox Church served as a warming center last winter, making it already equipped to welcome clients and make a difference.
We intend to be good neighbors and be responsible with the neighborhood.
In the latest Boomtown news,
seemingly the fate of this land here in Latah Valley has already been decided by DNR, but local conservation groups are still holding out hope that they can meet some sort of middle ground with the incoming developer.
So it's pretty special here in Spokane.
A deal months in the making is one step closer to becoming a reality. On January 7th, the Washington State Board of Natural Resources unanimously voted to exchange close to 200 acres of this Thorpe Road property for another property in Bellingham to bring more money into the trust beneficiaries, which fund K-12 education around the state.
They would like to upgrade that asset, which we support.
Something conservationists like Tim Uniacke understand but disagree with. Uniacke says in the early stages of discussing what to do with that piece of land, it was suggested that it should be given to the city of Spokane to use as a park and environmental learning center. However, DNR pivoted from that idea and decided to exchange it with a developer that intends to put houses in that area instead.
We obviously think that the city park is best for Spokane, it's best for DNR, it's best for trust beneficiaries, and it's best for the local community.
After trying to change DNR's mind about the land exchange for months, local conservationists had one more opportunity to ask the board to listen to their appeal on April 1st, or so they thought. Despite drafting a letter signed by 51 local stakeholders, including state legislators and elected officials, calling for the board to put it on Tuesday's agenda, none of the board members thought it was worth revisiting since it was already decided back in January with a unanimous vote to proceed with development. That's according to a statement put out by the Commissioner of Public Lands, Dave Upthegrove.
I'm disappointed.
That's Jeff Lambert, the president of the Friends of the Bluff Conservation Group. Lambert says he's been working to protect this area since 1997 and says losing this wildlife corridor is a major loss.
But we're going to continue to advocate for this place as a nature preserve.
Even though saving a portion of this high-drive bluff is going to be an uphill battle, Lambert, Uniacke, and other conservationists like them are willing to work with the new developer to find some sort of middle ground between the two sides.
We're going to explore what we can do that's a win for them and a win for us.
If nothing is done before that April 6th deadline to back out of the agreement, conservationists are hoping to work with the developer to keep as much public land here as possible before the deal closes in mid-July. In Latah Valley, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscast and weather forecast anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now here's one more story before we go.
Well, it's taken about 60 years, but Sketch the Sasquatch for Spokane Colleges and some athletic facilities are finally getting a new, fresh, and updated look.
With some sanding and refinishing. One element of this rebrand is turning the large Bigfoot foot into a new Sketch the Sasquatch logo on the basketball court at Spokane Falls Community College.
So I think the whole rebrand with the name, our new athletic logo, just sort of hits the reset button for us.
As well as the marketing across both campuses.
First I was sad to see the foot go, and then once we started seeing this go around a lot of the merch, and then we started seeing the court, it blends well, it looks great, and we're excited to play on it.
When the foot goes, everything goes, including the gym court and floor logo, which has received a lot of love, sweat, and tears since the early 1960s.
Everything that has a foot is going to be replaced. So home and away uniforms, warm-ups, sweat tops, travel gear, backpacks. It's a laundry list. I mean, we have 13 sports, and you can imagine how much gear each sport requires.
The college says this refresh is important as many students go on to play sports for four-year universities, Providing that positive environment for both learning and play is vital.
Definitely a lot of dedication and hard work, but it's definitely been a lot of help with my coaches and our athletic directors and all that, guiding me to my goal.
Now, with a new look, athletes can carry on a new legacy.
Going to be like Christmas in August.
No more Bigfoot. Yeah. No more Bigfoot.
The rebrand initiative will continue through this fall, but the basketball floor and the court will be done by mid-May. Perfect for springtime sports. Reporting right here at Spokane Falls Community College, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for spending part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.